60 Minutes icon who inspired fear in many and respect in all, died Saturday. Fox News chairman and CEO Roger Ailes called Wallace, quote, one of the premier journalists of our time. His legendary tenacity, passion for the truth, and unwavering commitment to fairness will always be admired and remembered.
He calls you, Imam, forgive me, his words, not mine, a lunatic.
Mike Wallace's questions said a lot.
He was doing what?
With you.
Why? Why? Why?
Really?
He could get, with a question, to the very core of the story.
Years before 60 Minutes, in the early days of broadcasting, Wallace was already well known, first as a radio announcer and then as a television host on a variety of programs.
Hello, I'm Mike Wallace with real news.
Hello, everybody.
Wallace honed his interviewing skills on a show called Night Beat.
Good evening, I'm Mike Wallace. The show is Night Beat.
And that pit bull questioning style caught the eye of 60 Minutes producer Don Hewitt, who in 1968 chose Wallace to anchor the new show alongside Harry Reasoner.
60 Minutes, Volume 1, Number 1.
Wallace's colleagues credit him for a large part of the show's decades of success.
60 Minutes would not still be on the air, but for Mike. I think people started to tune in to us in big numbers back in the late 70s, early 80s to see what Mike Wallace was going to be up to next.
He was not afraid to ask the outrageous question, and it was what made him great.
In a 2005 interview with NBC, Wallace was asked how he wanted to be remembered.
Tough but fair. And that really, I mean, for a reporter, tough but fair.
And most of the tributes today say just that. Mike Wallace was indeed a broadcast journalism icon, but he was also dad to our friend and Fox News colleague, Chris Wallace. Chris recently accepted an award from the National Press Foundation and had this to say about his famous father.
He wasn't easy. Any of you who knew him can testify to that, but he was vibrant and funny and demanding and a truly great reporter. As someone once said, he had an underdeveloped sense of other people's privacy. Can you imagine? Can you imagine coming home as a teenager from a date and Mike Wallace is sitting up waiting for you? Where did you go, he asks. What did you do? How would you like to explain these hidden camera videos? My father taught me so much about this business. He taught me to always pursue both sides of the story, to prepare so thoroughly for an interview that you make it clear to the subject that there's no use in even trying to spin you because you know too much. I spent so much of my early life trying to get out from under his shadow. Now, as my father nears his 94th birthday and is slipping away, I don't want you to forget him.
That tribute from Chris to his father came on March 7th, exactly 1 month before Mike Wallace's death. This passing marked...
The death of Mike Wallace is a reminder that 60 Minutes, the program of which he was such a critical part, is the last vestige of a golden age of broadcast news. 60 Minutes began its rise as a ratings blockbuster back when the network evening news was an American dinner hour habit. In the beginning, NBC's Huntley Brinkley Report was the leader. That gave way to Walter Cronkite and a stable of star correspondents at CBS. Cronkite's retirement opened the way eventually for ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings in the 1980s. By that time, though, things had begun to change. The emergence of cable TV with its huge menu of shows siphoned away broadcast viewership, but did nothing to halt the growth in costs. Cable news added further to the audience erosion. The result has been that network news divisions have been gradually turning out the lights for more than 2 decades. Staffs have been cut repeatedly. Bureaus have been closed, first overseas, then here at home. Cable news, with its instant access to its audience, robbed the network news programs of their immediacy and much of their impact. But those magazine shows, led by 60 Minutes, with no need of a huge staff or a chain of bureaus, have survived and even thrived. And that owes much to Mike Wallace, who worked till he was 88 and whose infectious enthusiasm never waned. Brett?
You talk about his enthusiasm, and Mike Wallace had it. Do you think that explains his longevity in this business?
Well, you know, cynicism is an occupational hazard in this business. And when you're in it a long time and you see everything come and go in cycles the way it does, and it's easy to get bored. And when you get bored, it's easy to get cynical. Your skepticism, which is a necessity in this business, can morph into cynicism. In Mike Wallace's case, that never seemed to happen. He never seemed to lose his verve. He never seemed to lose his enthusiasm or his vibrancy. And when you watched him doing an interview or working a story, you kind of couldn't take your eyes off of him. He was so interested and so enthusiastic, it made you that way. And I think that was really his secret.
Britt, thank you.
You bet.
End of the era. Condolences to Chris and the rest of the Wallace family. Mike Wallace was 93. We'll be right back.